welcome back to another video. And today I'll be reading the book called Five Nights at Freddy's, The Silver Eyes. And yeah, let's begin. Five Nights at Freddy's, The Silver Eyes, written by Catherine, and illustrated by Carrie Breed Reelsley. Okay, let's get started. He sees me. Charlie dropped to her hands and knees. She was wedged behind a row of arcade games, crampled in the crawl space between the consoles and the wall, tangled electrical cords and useless plugs strewn beneath her. She was concerned the only way out was past the thing, and she wasn't fast enough to make it. She could see him stalking back and forth, catching flickers of movement through the gaps between the games. There was scarcely enough room to move, but she tried to crawl backward. Her foot caught on a cord. She stopped, conjuring herself to carefully dislodge it. She heard the clash of metal on metal, and the farthest console rocked back against the wall. He hit it again, shattering the display, then attacked the next, crashing against them, almost rhythmically, tearing through the machinery, coming closer. I have to get out. I have to. The panic through was of no help. There was no way out. Her arm ached and she wanted to sob aloud. Blood soaked through the tattered bandage, and it seemed as though she could feel it draining out of her. The console a few feet away crashed against the wall, and Charlie flinched. He was getting closer. She could hear the grinding of gears and the clicking of servos, even louder. Eyes closed, eyes closed. She could still see the way he looked at her, see the matted fur and the exposed metal beneath the cyanidic flesh. Suddenly the console in front of her was wrenched away. It toppled over, thrown down like a toy. The power cords beneath her hands and knees were yanked away, and Charlie slipped, almost falling. She caught herself and looked up just in time to see the down swing of a hook. Wait, yeah, downward swing of a hook. Charlie smiled wearily at the sign and kept driving. The word didn't look any different from one side of the sign to the other, but she felt a nervous anticipation, um, anti- wait, anticipation as she passed it. She didn't recognize anything. Then again, she hadn't really expected expected to. Not this far at the edge of town, where it was all highway and empty space. She wondered what the others would look like, who they were now. 10 years ago, they'd been best friends, and then it happened, and everything ended, at least for Charlie. She hadn't seen any of them since she was 7 years old. They had written all the time as kids, especially Marla, who wrote like she talked, fast and incoherent. But as they got older, they had grown apart. The letters had grown fewer and further between, and the conversations leading up to this trip had been perfunctory and full of awkward pauses. Charlie repeated their names as though to reassure herself that she still remembered them. Marla, Jessica, Lamar, Carlton, wait, Carlton, John, and Michael. Michael was the reason for this trip after all. It was 10 years since he died, 10 years since it happened, and now his parents wanted them all together for the dedication ceremony. They wanted all his old friends there, there when they announced the scholarship they were creating in his name. Charlie knew it was a good thing to do, but the gathering still felt slightly macabre. She shivered and turned down the air conditioning, even though she knew it was not the cold. As she drove into the town center, Charlie began to recognize things. A few stores and the movie theater, which was now advertising the summer's blockbuster hit. She felt a brief moment of surprise, then smiled at herself. What did you expect? That the whole place would be unchanged? A moment to the moment of your departure, frozen forever, in July 1985. Well, that was exactly what she had expected. She looked at her watch, still a few hours to kill before they all met up. She thought about going to the movie, but she knew what she really wanted to do. Charlie made a left turn and headed out of town. 10 minutes later, she pulled to a stop and got out. Okay, I'm gonna stop here and I'll continue like later or tomorrow. That's all I have to say. Bye.